Hey guys, Chicky Maine, aka DeBud.com with a DeBud.com update on this area of low pressure now moving over North Florida. This update effective around 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on April 19th, 2014, and starts you off with the water vapor imagery. And as you can see earlier, the center of rotation was just south of the Florida border and has moved across state lines into southern Georgia and is now straddling the border of Florida and Georgia on its way out into the Atlantic. If you take a look closely, you can see a little bit of increasing in moisture right around the northwest center of the rotation. That means it's starting to draw in a little bit of moisture in here from the Atlantic Ocean. We're going to have to keep an eye on this because as you can see out here over the ocean, we can see that thunderstorm activity is starting to fire. A little late in the afternoon for it, but when this thing gets over water, northeast winds are going to crank back up, and we'll be watching for that for some possible surf alert conditions into North Florida over the next 24 to 48 hours or so. Don't hold us to it, but there are some fun rideable surf being caught on the east coast of Florida and up in here through the southeast. We'll show you what the latest model runs of the GFS for this afternoon is showing us here coming up in the forecast. Taking a look at the visible satellite imagery, you can see that there's a wide swath of area of low pressure in here moving out towards the Atlantic, and you can see some burst of convection here and there, but mostly everything is offshore, but starting to rotate in here towards South Carolina. So possible heavy rains continuing on through this afternoon for portions of the southeast states. Looking at the latest infrared satellite loops, you can see again the black indicating the deeper convection well offshore moving in here towards the Outer Banks, but it's this little wraparound in here that will have us paying attention over the next 24 hours into Easter. Here's what the latest GFS afternoon model run forecast looks like, showing you on Sunday low pressure now in the Atlantic, northeast winds cranking up from the Outer Banks down in here towards South Carolina and into North Florida. On Monday, the low pressure system begins to break apart a little bit and drift off towards the northeast. Still strong northeast winds into the Outer Banks and mid-Atlantic now. Seas probably in here 9 to 12 feet along the Outer Banks and northeast developing groundswell aimed at Florida. The Tuesday, you can see that it kind of, again, weakens a bit. The model trends have been over the back-to-back runs is to weaken this system now a little bit. We've been calling for a possible major swell event. It now looks like in the recent runs that this will be a swell headed for the islands, Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, and the Virgins coming up. As we get into Wednesday, you can see that the area of low pressure that was down here off the Florida coast now out here towards the north-central Atlantic with another area of low pressure moving in off the northeast states. These two areas are going to try and combine, but here's where the strong north-northwest fetch begins to set up now, possibly sending a long period groundswell towards the south, towards Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, and the islands. On Friday, you can see now the low tightening back up now, and there's a nice fetch of northerly winds, 35 to 40 knots in here, again aimed all at the south towards the islands. So we'll be watching for that later coming up in the swell forecast. And then again, this is the CMC, kind of showing you the same idea, long north fetch aimed at the islands in here, end of the forecast period on Friday. There should be some lingering northeast groundswell coming from this system that could work into Florida, but we're still analyzing that data. That's all we got for you for now, guys. Stay tuned for the next update.